Welcome to another episode of the Bravo Outsider Podcast. I'm your host, Craig Midwinter, and as always, I'm joined by my co-host, Dylan Ferguson. Dylan, how's it going?
Just fine, just swell. Happy to be here bright and early in the morning.
For sure. Each week, we bring on an outsider to the Bravo universe and make them watch the episodes to get their takes. This week's outsider is the very funny Andy Noble.
I'm passionate about dogs. Just not crazy about bitches.
Very good.
Very intense.
Yeah.
Did the glasses work?
Pick.
The glasses add something.
It was kind of Horatio Kane, to be honest.
Yeah, more Horatio Kane than Lisa Vanderpump.
Any minute, yeah.
I love how you guys knew who that was. Like there was a database of like 20 million taglines, and I said one, and you were like, "Boom, Lisa Vanderpump nailed it."
Yeah, Craig has that printed out as like a Bible on his next to his bed.
Greg has got one of those like word a day calendars, but instead of a word a day, it's just a tagline from a Real Housewife.
You know, I'm gonna guess that is like season 6 or season 7. Even I'm that confident in like knowing the era of Beverly Hills that was from.
I'm gonna say that you're right because I have no idea.
So Andy, before we get into the shows that we're going to cover today, do you want to just give a little background and sort of what your experience with reality TV is and what sort of awareness you had around Bravo shows?
I would say zero. I would say in terms of reality TV, like I remember Survivor coming out in like 2000, and they were like, "Oh, there's this new thing," and it never really grabbed me. It never really made me interested in it. I can't think of a single reality show that I actually watched. Never watched Big Brother, never watched any of the big ones. And Vanderpump Rules I had just heard about like a few months ago. It like came through a thing. I saw something about it and I was like, "Oh, is this a new show?" It's like 10 seasons deep.
Yeah, it is.
And I had no idea it existed. And then Real Housewives, like I had heard of it, but I couldn't name a single housewife. I was like, "Who's the star of this?" I had no idea. So I came in pretty fresh.
Oh, perfect. Well, I'm excited to get into it. So this week we're going to cover Real Housewives Ultimate Girls Trip. The first 3 episodes dropped. So that's the one that I'm most excited about this week. And then we'll also talk a little Vanderpump Rules after.
Okay.
But first off, Dylan, I wanted to kind of get your thoughts on what you think about the Ultimate Girls Trip format for Housewives.
Yes, this is actually my first time watching an Ultimate Girls Trip. I never watched the other ones before. So yeah, I'm coming into this new. And I feel kind of two ways about it. Like on one hand, it's like an all-star game, which is cool. But on the other hand, nobody really likes all-star games.
Yeah.
But it's fun because it's like it's intense, it's intoxicating. It's just a distillation of a housewife show, right? And instead of if a regular housewife show is like a glass of beer, this is like 130 proof liquor. It's just boiled down into like Everclear or something, you know, that shit that kills you when you're a teenager at a party. You know, it's just like it's rubbing alcohol. It's just the pure, you know, top performers just having meals together, having drinks together, getting scared of elephants together, like no context whatsoever, right? You're deprived of all the ordinary social contexts and relationships that they usually exist within, except for like the 2 people per show that come through and import a little bit of their baggage with them. So it's fun to be like, let's just have the fights. Let's just let's just have our all-stars just skate out to center ice and shake the gloves off. Like, let's not fuck around with meaningful matches or anything. That's kind of cool. On the other hand, I think there's something that's lost without the context as well.
For sure.
Part of the richness of a Housewives show is having the fact that they have their families that they have to deal with and interact with, and we see that as well, and we see these long-standing relationships. And for those that deign to to win a paycheck. We see them, setting up businesses or planning events or whatever the hell. And then just the social and cultural context of the specific geographical milieu they're in, whether it's the Cubana diaspora in Miami or the deep-rooted, intertwined Sicilian families in New Jersey. All that context kind of adds a lot to it.
Yeah.
So even though we all want to see them cross swords, and that's like, always the most exciting part, it kind of makes me think of there's this cookbook I like to read. All right, I'm going to bear with me. There's a guy named Fergus Henderson who's an English chef. I have a cookbook of his that I occasionally read, mostly just because I like to read his writing, and occasionally I like absolutely fucking up his recipes. But he describes something in this book what he calls the Raisin Bran principle, where he says, like, when he was a little kid, he loved eating Raisin Bran because it has raisins in it, and raisins are tasty. And it's like, one day I just decided I was going to pick through the box and put as many raisins as I could into one bowl. And I thought it'd be the best thing ever, but it wasn't very good. And so he brings that approach to his cooking, right? It's like the idea that the best part of a dish should be there sparingly. You should want more. It should be just a part of the texture. Otherwise, it doesn't work as well. So you can see where I'm going with this. You could apply that principle to art too. And Ultimate Girls Trip is kind of just a bowl of raisins. Yeah. I could use some Bran in there. I could use some Bran, to be honest. Having said that, it was a lot of fun. Yeah.
You used a word at the beginning of that I agree with 100%, which was intense.
Yeah.
Like, having never seen an episode, and I didn't get any of that new. I got the full bowl of raisins right away. And I got to be honest, like, this show, it was really difficult for me to watch. Like, I was excited to do the podcast, and I was like, all right, I'll dive into this. I thought that, I had this stereotype of what type of show this is, and these are incredibly vapid, dumb women who are behaving badly, and I thought that was all it is. It is way more complicated than that. It is a very complex, emotionally draining, stressful event of coordinated attacks and a constant power struggle, and every character seems to be engaged in a conspiracy against every other character at all times. This is like Game of Thrones level power struggle. And these women are not dumb. That's something I realized very quickly. They are not stupid women. They're just using all of their brain power to hurt each other and boost themselves up. And it was fascinating, but for me, it was hard to watch because I grew up in a house with 3 older sisters and no brothers. So I've seen this. I've seen all of this before, all the cattiness, all the backhanded compliments and the insincerity and manipulation. The second I see that, my first instinct is to turn it off. And I was watching this at the start. I was watching this in about 10-minute intervals. And every 10 minutes, they'd start screaming at each other for no reason. I'm like, you're in this villa. You're having this great time. Look at how beautiful it is. Why are you screaming at each other? Why can't you enjoy this for 10 minutes? And I would get up, I would pause it, I would get up and I would pace around my apartment. I was like drinking brown liquor from the glass like a haunted detective. I'm trying to find a motive, and I'm like, why would any of you go on this trip? They're like, this is going to be so much fun. I'm like, why would you think that? Nothing on this show is fun. They've never made anything fun on this show. It's always a nightmare. It's always you crying at the end.
Yeah.
But the more I watched it, the more I started to see the game that was involved in it. And maybe with this being like an all-star event, looking back on it now and hearing you talk about the context of the other shows and the family aspect and the other side to that coin that doesn't seem to exist in this version, it almost seems like this should be like a training camp for Real Housewives. Like okay, if you can make it through this Ultimate Girls Trip, then you've earned your right to be, because we're going to throw you into the thick of it. This is the pulp of it all. This is the mash that we're going to make this liquor out of.
That's not a bad idea. You could have like 2 people you're auditioning for a show and add them to a girls trip that's otherwise like veterans, and just like see who makes it out alive and they get a spot on the show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Or
mean,
see
that
who
actually is
knows
what
how to
it
play
feels
this
like
game.
yeah, that's what it feels like when you're watching Winter House, actually. So
Okay.
on Winter House, which is another Bravo show, they have people from the Summer House and Southern Charm, and like occasionally Vanderpump Rules people show up. And this upcoming season, there'll be a few people from Below Deck, but they also have like full blown newbies that get thrown on there. And it does feel like an audition on that show. But I
Mhm.
think you both touched on things that I felt while watching Ultimate Girls Trip. And I do appreciate that it is a sprint and not a marathon. I think that it is very different, like you said, Dylan, from a Real Housewives show in terms of you don't get those complex, long-standing relationships. The it doesn't have that richness, that narrative richness that you get from the other shows, but it is distilled down to the game of it, like you said,
Yeah.
Andy. Like it is distilled down to housewife tradecraft, as a term
Mhm.
that Heather Gay coined here. And you see the power struggles, you see people jockeying for positions, how they are milking and using information in order to and how they decide to leverage that information within
Mhm.
a very condensed format. And I thought it was I feel like this has been the best Ultimate Girls Trip so far. So
I feel the
I was
same.
No, you're totally right. It is like pure strategy at this level.
Yeah, and
yeah,
like I said, really did think this was just a show about women going, "Oh my God, where are the drinks?" and stuff. And it's so much more
It is
of
for
a
Marisol.
yeah.
yeah. There's, I mean, and is the thing I noticed is that once I think it was Heather using the term housewife tradecraft that made me realize, oh, this is planned. A lot of this is premeditated. Some of it's, reactionary, but a lot of this is planned. And they're definitely, I don't know if they're, I guess you call them housewives. I was going to call them contestants or characters, but I don't know what they're competing for.
Yeah.
But there are definitely some of the housewives that are a lot better at this game than some of the
For
others.
sure.
Like
Yeah.
Giselle, right away, I was like, she knows what she's doing. She is very
Yeah.
calculated. I have different nicknames for all of them, and I was giving her the prosecution. That's her nickname because she's always asking questions. She
Oh, check
makes
out
sure,
Candace over here, giving everybody
Yeah.
new names.
but no, she makes sure that everyone else is on the defensive whenever they're sitting at a table. And it's even comes down to like every time there's a lunch or a dinner, she's at the middle of the table. She's never at the end of the table because she doesn't want to have everyone facing her. She doesn't want to have her back to the wall. She wants to take this energy, which she's very good at, is knowing where the energy is at, where the conflict is at. And if it ever starts to circle towards her, she's very good at deflecting it and putting it in other places.
Yeah.
And something I noticed right away was when I think it's their first lunch that they're having, where she knows that the Salt Lake City team, Heather and Whitney,
Yeah.
she knows that's Rocky. So she's like, that's an easy wedge to drive in. I can separate those two, and then they can't gang up on me or whoever I'm using at this time. So she goes right to work on them, and they start screaming it out. They get all their tension boiled up, and then she just goes, okay, I'm tabling this, because she doesn't want them to resolve anything. They start to get to a point where they're being honest with each other, and they might seem like they might resolve something. That's not what Giselle wants. She wants that tension to boil. She wants to be able to go and use that whenever she can. And then you see, I think it's an episode or two later, everything seems to be going good. Yeah, it's on the yacht. Everything seems to be going good. And then out of nowhere, Giselle just goes, so Heather, what was that thing you were saying about the Mormon church? And
Yeah.
immediately it pops off. And then the next thing I wrote about Giselle is somebody needs to shave her eyebrows off, because it was making my skin crawl the way she would just stir the pot, throw negative energy in someone else's direction, and then the camera pans back to her and she's sitting there like She's got it. Like, I can't believe that this thing that I totally created is happening now. Whoa, what happened?
Yeah.
Eyebrows.
That's a
Yeah,
great
I
read on
thought.
Giselle, actually. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought that this was actually like a masterclass in housewifeship from Giselle so far
Yeah.
on Ultimate Girls
Well,
Trip. I think she has done exactly what I want to see out of this condensed format in terms of how she is using information in order to manipulate things.
yeah.
I want to play a clip from Tamra and Teddy's podcast, two former housewives, two teas in a pod, and they give their take on Giselle, which is actually a bit of a contrast from my feelings.
Not everybody was even there yet, and she wanted to get the Jen Shaw stuff out right away. And I'm like, girl, just sit down for a minute. Like, she's always trying to find an angle. And I mean, that's good in a housewife, but when it's too much all the time, I feel like you're trying to produce a show.
At some point, I need to see the other side of Giselle. Like, I want to see Giselle as like an actual mess or having a breakdown or there's got to be not just.
She's too busy producing the show.
Yeah.
And she got to work right away. Like, as soon as the plane landed, as soon as some people showed up, she was like, all right, we don't, I guess, like, with a regular season of Housewives, like, how many episodes are there? 10?
No, there's usually like closer to 20.
20? Okay, so for this Ultimate Girls Trip, is it the same? Is it 20 episodes?
No, they'll probably just be like closer to 10 episodes.
Okay,
And
no
reunion.
Yeah, in that context, and maybe it's she knows, okay, I've got to get this going quickly because we got to, number one, we want this to be a success, so we got to hook people in right away, and we don't have time to let things build and boil as much as we do with a regular season. So it is definitely, it felt very planned, and there was a lot of great moves that I saw Giselle do. Like, one of them that stood out to me was Leah comes in to breakfast or whatever, and she says, oh my God, I'm PMSing so hard. And immediately Giselle says, oh, I'll do yoga with you. Because Giselle knows, all right, she's PMSing. She's going to attack somebody at some point, and it's not going to be me. So I'm going to align myself with her. And then as soon as she starts lashing out at, I think, Portia that night at dinner, as soon as she starts lashing out on her, then it's like, okay, she's vulnerable. Boom. Now Giselle is attacking her. So it's very planned and very coordinated. And one other thing that I noticed about Janelle is that whenever she does it, she knows that the lunches and the dinners, that's game time. Like, the rest is kind of like practice. And I related it to, she does her research first. Like, she goes before the lunch, she'll sit down, go one-on-one or one-on-two with people and be like, so where are you sitting with this? And how does this make you feel? And she gets a sense of where everyone's at before she makes her attack. And it kind of felt like an athlete watching game tape before game time. It's like, all right, I want to know where the shots are coming from so I can be prepared and I can steer this in the direction that I want.
Yeah.
But
I think
at the same time, like, she's all these moves. I'm brand new. If I can pick up on this, then so can the rest of the housewives. So she's good at what she does, but she's not subtle about it, I think.
Yeah, but she's very careful not to give up information. And I think that's something that Teddy and Tamara kind of alluded to in their criticism of her. And I think they do have a point to an extent about Giselle as a housewife, not disclosing, not sharing as much as other housewives do. I think if there is a criticism about Giselle as a housewife, that would be it. But Giselle is a very like active housewife. She is always stirring the pot or in the midst of drama. Usually she's just stirring the pot, but she's very active. And I think that like some of that lack of openness can be excused, and there is like Lisa Rinna is like the archetype for someone that is a very active housewife that doesn't disclose very much, because when Lisa Rinna was on Beverly Hills, we didn't see her share very much of her family, and when she did, it seemed like super produced and not like real or relatable at all. I think that Giselle actually is better at playing this role than Lisa, because Giselle still manages to come across as very likable, in my opinion. And when she does share bits and pieces of her family, I think it does resonate and feel true. Like her relationship with her daughters feels very, very honest and like not overly produced. So I think that she is a very successful housewife in that regard.
Mm-hmm. Well, no, and it's definitely like, especially for something like this, it feels like you do need someone like that who not only understands the game, but knows how to push it and knows how to make it entertaining for the audience and stuff. On the other side of that, Heather is, first of all, one of my favorite characters is Heather. I
Oh,
have
interesting.
the nickname I gave her was the traveling pants, because all the other women seem to use her at some different point. And the first scene she is in front of the camera and she's like, I realize I bring the glam factor down, so I'm going to make up for it by just, a lot of jokes. And I'm like, this is never going to go well. First of all, a lot of jokes, it means you're forcing jokes, which means you're going to bomb. And she bombs all show. Every time she tries to make a joke, it blows up in her face. She's not good at it. But she has this really like obsequious way about her where she just, everybody like me. Even in the second episode, she's like, I'm determined to win these women back. And I want to scream through this TV, these women don't like you. You're against them. they don't like you. And if they do, they won't in another 20 minutes. And
yeah, I think Heather is so outclassed on this trip. Like,
she doesn't know the game. She thinks the game is, I want everybody to like me. And it's someone like Giselle knows, no, the game is to cut. It's to cut, and it's to make these moments that make people go, oh my God.
Yeah. You wouldn't think that Heather has like been on the show for 3 seasons based on her performance on this trip. I think she seems to really not understand what a housewife should be doing. And she does always on Salt Lake City try to push out this like every woman persona, like that she's so relatable compared to everyone else. And it's just ringing kind of hollow to me at this point. And so I thought that she was really outclassed, and I was actually really happy to see that so evident in this trip.
I'll say I don't watch Salt Lake City, so Whitney and Heather are like new to me. So when I first started watching this show, seeing Whitney and Heather with all these other women, my first thought was like, is this like a Make-A-Wish campaign thing? Like, how do these women even get here? Like, they just do not seem to be in the same class as the other women. I mean, they kind of bring the heat in the third episode a little bit. And of course, I'm missing context because I don't know their backgrounds. I don't know their personalities, but they just don't seem to be on the level initially as the other people. And with Heather, it's like, like you said, the strategizing is really naked in the Ultimate Girls Trip. It's like everybody is clearly strategizing and realizing that everybody else is. Heather's really wearing that on her sleeve, but Heather seems to be approaching this like it's like a LinkedIn meetup conference or something.
She's
like,
trying to make friends.
It's so like networking and so just like obviously like I'm trying to build my brand here.
She's a social climber. They say they have that flashback where she's like, oh, she's got 7 million followers. I want to hang out with her. Like, even if that is a joke, it's like, number one, that's cringy no matter who you're talking. Even to this group, that's like a cringy thing to say. But it's very transparent and everybody knows like she's in this to get something, whether it's a friendship or a higher status. She's in this to climb up. And that's why she wants to make friends. That's why she wants everybody to like her, because she's trying to build her stock. Whereas someone like, Marisol and Alexia from Miami, they're not trying to impress anybody. They're not trying to do anything to make themselves stand out. They're like, yeah, we're OGs. We've been around. We know how this goes. And that's another thing that I thought about when because all of these housewives were brand new to me. I just assumed they were all, even playing field. They'd have all been around for however long or whatever. And I didn't realize that some of them were a lot newer than other ones. So I started like researching, okay, like how long has this one been a housewife? How long is that one? Because at first I thought the Miami team, the Alexia and
Yeah,
Marisol,
Marisol.
I was like, yeah, they're not really doing much. They're not really, creating drama. Marisol is like, the first thing I wrote down is she seems too tired / drunk for all of this. And she's got the stomach thing where she's like, oh, yeah, I can't really do anything. And then I
and she
started
maybe has
thinking
an
like,
ulcer. I wonder why, Marisol.
yeah. But I'm like, okay, they're kind of just phoning this in. And then I remembered like, oh, no. These are not brand new. These are seasoned veterans from 10 years ago. When did it start? Like 2010, 13 years ago.
Yeah, so it actually took like an 8-year hiatus. So it just came back.
They said
for
something about
seasons.
that.
Yeah,
But even still, like they've had reps in the gym with dealing with situations like this. And then I'm like, no. This isn't Potomac, which I had never heard of before. This is Miami. Like this is bouncing in the club when the heat is on all night in the city till the break of dawn or whoever. This is Miami. We're talking about Miami here. They know what they're doing. And I think maybe a little bit like it's totally possible that Marisol has an ulcer, but I think maybe she's just like, when I get to the house, it's going to be nuts. There's going to be a lot of shots being fired. I'm just going to play possum a little bit and stay out of it and just kind of stack up ammo and just let everybody else get their shit out so that I'm kind of off the radar. And then when it comes time, then I can make my strike and then I can talk some shit to other people.
Yeah. It's interesting that you use Potomac as an example of, a contrast in experience, because actually I think the Potomac girls have maybe the most experience under their belt. Giselle has been around for 7 seasons now.
Okay.
Candace, I think, is about 5 seasons, maybe 6. I don't remember whether she joined in the first or second season of Potomac, but I think Salt Lake City, definitely you see a skill disparity, especially with Heather. Like, I think that Whitney is a very underrated housewife. I think that she kind of fits the same mold as Giselle. She's just she's a bit more new. She's like a bit more of a rookie. She's got 3 seasons under her belt to Giselle's 7, but she does a great job of using information to create drama. I think we see a little bit of that in Ultimate Girls Trip, but especially so on Real Housewives of Salt Lake City. And I don't think that she gets enough credit as she deserves as a housewife. I think like she has a lot of raw potential to really fill that role.
There's a lot of times where she's just quiet. Like there's half an episode where you're like, yeah, she hasn't said anything for a while. And there's certain housewives that you can tell, like with Leah, it is very obvious that she needs attention, has to have it, goes out of her way to get it. But with Whitney, she doesn't seem to be searching for attention. She seems way more interested in talking shit behind people's back. That's why every time they get into a car ride where it's just a few of them, it's like a little whisper thing. And well, that's interesting. She told me that she loves to just place information and send it out to develop. And she doesn't seem to be good in like the group setting, where Giselle is very good in the group setting where she can take the energy and go deflect, where Whitney will get sucked into a thing where she starts screaming and crying and really having to defend herself. And I think that's why she's more apt to, in the car, like, hey, by the way, this is something that Heather said, but it's actually not really like, she's that type. And like you said, she's very good at placing information and she's very good at seeing how it develops.
Yeah, I think like this type of housewife is someone that I would really love to see playing Big Brother, because so much of Big Brother gameplay is how you use information, how you gather and use and disseminate information, and how you can kind of get reads on the house by seeing the path that information takes to get back to you. And I feel like Giselle and Whitney would be great Big Brother players because of that. So I'm hopeful that if there's another season of Celebrity Big Brother that we see them, because we do typically get a housewife on the cast.
Yeah. Well, and with those two, there's a lot of times where you'll think like, ooh, that was shady, or ooh, that was a shitty thing to do, or oh, she's being a bitch right now. But you don't hate them. You know, like there was Giselle is one of my least favorite because I see what she's doing and I'm like, this is very manipulative. This is very, but I'm like, I don't hate you. I
Yeah.
haven't been given a reason to hate you yet. And maybe that's because she is so guarded and she's willing to, or she's not willing to divulge all this information and give people this ammunition to go after her. Another one that's like that is Alexia, or sorry, the kind of the opposite is Alexia is, um, she'll put it all out there. She seems very honest, and it seems to be a great defense mechanism of
She'll
like,
put it all out there twice in the same
yeah,
night.
she's B Rabbit and 8 Mile. She's like, yeah, you think you got something on me? Guess what? I'm gonna nullify that, and I'm gonna put it out myself, and I'm gonna be honest, and then you can't use that to attack me. And it's a very smart play. I really think the two women from Miami are very savvy at what they're doing, and they aren't trying to just take shots for the sake of taking shots. I think they're sitting in the wings and they're waiting for their moment. And the second thing is, I think they're a great team. Like they're working together. Where
Yeah.
Candace and Giselle, they're both great players, but they don't seem to have that team bond. Like Alexia and Marisol haven't gotten a fight. They've had each other's backs. Alexia is like kind of taking care of Marisol without going, like when she's got the ulcer, she's like, oh, what can I get you? She's helping her in the hotel room. And then not going to the other women being like, oh my God, she made me help her get out of bed. And like, which is something that other players might do.
Yeah.
And there's a couple of different times where you see their teamwork, right in the beginning when Heather is getting attacked. Like as soon as they sit down, they start this interrogation of Heather where Whitney masterfully just she's sitting right beside Heather and not taking any of the splashback on all these questions about Jen. And Heather gets into a place where she's immediately feeling defensive. And I think some of the different housewives see this as a weakness and they're pouncing on it. Like Giselle keeps pushing Heather because she sees her backing up and lifting her shoulders up. So she keeps pushing. Alexia kind of steps in and they're talking about Jen. Why would Jen lie? And Alexia goes, oh, she's facing 30 years. She's going to plead to 14. Yeah. So she gives Heather an out. And then the next scene, they're getting in the car and it's Alexia and Marisol both sitting there consoling Heather, where I think some of the housewives see Heather as an easy target. I think Marisol and Alexia see Heather as an easy ally to make.
Yeah,
because they sit there and they're both together being like, yeah, that was kind of insane that they all just attacked you like that. And then one of them goes, oh, and yeah, Whitney didn't even get any questions. So they're trying to make an ally as well as drive a wedge in between. And it's a lot more subtle than the way Giselle is doing it. So
I think what is interesting about, that some housewives seeing Heather as a potential like number, an ally, as he said, is like Leah did the same thing. She did a complete about face at that dinner when like Giselle immediately pitted Leah and Heather against each other, and there was conflict. And then Leah, like a light bulb goes off. She's like, you know what? Like, why am I engaging in this when Heather could easily be a number? Like, I've almost got some leverage on her now that she has said this. Let's hug it out and I can bring her in because I'm getting vibes from all the other women on the trip that they're in opposition to me. So I'm going to need to bring someone in to be on my side.
Yeah.
Well,
she's smart enough to know, like, sometimes when somebody attacks you, it's better to just put that in your back pocket and be like, I could use it as a weapon to keep you on my side rather than attack you with it.
Well, and I think Leah played that situation perfectly because as soon as Leah got to the house, the first thing she does is goes up to Heather and she's like, yeah, like, I'm sorry, you seem like you were being manipulated by a evil person and stuff. And Heather takes that the wrong way. And she's like, oh, great. Thanks for attacking me before my bags are down. Like, I can, great. Yeah, you didn't say I was a good friend. You said I was manipulated, and I'm very easily manipulated. And Heather takes offense to that. And I think Leah, I don't know necessarily if she meant it like that, but it was taken like that. So Leah's sitting there going, oh, I just did a thing that's kind of bitchy. And she does this in a few different instances during the first 3 episodes where she's like, I was a bitch in that situation, so now I need to twist the narrative. And she lets it sit for a minute, and then when she gets to dinner, she's like, or sorry, before the dinner when they're Megan jokes and Heather's like, yeah, we should try and get Leah drunk, and then Giselle immediately rats her out on it and is like, oh wow, it's weird because she just said she should get you drunk, and then Leah is now like, okay, I've got this thing that I can keep bringing up. She brings it up like 4 or 5 times. Like, where's Heather? Oh, she's probably trying to find drugs for me.
Yeah.
And number one, she gets to play the victim, which she loves to do.
Yeah.
But number two, she gets to twist things around. And then later on at dinner, she's like, yeah, you came up to me and you said, how are you going to stay sober? And I'm here to support you. And that's what Heather said, but that's not the way Heather, when they play it back, Heather was like, oh my God, how are you going to stay sober and around these women? And I'm here to support you. She's trashing the other women. She's not doing that to Heather, or sorry, to Leah, but Leah gets to twist that and say, yeah, like you really made me feel uncomfortable when you said that. And now Leah has balanced the scales. They've both said a bitchy thing to each other. So now it's even. They're both on level playing ground. And then as soon as everyone starts to gang up on her, now that she's been pitted against Heather, she sees a moment where she says, I can be the bigger person here and I can win back some of this cachet, let's say. And yeah, that's when she stands up and goes, nothing is resolved, but she goes, okay, I'll forgive you. I'll move past it.
Yeah.
And she goes from being a bitch to now the bigger person in that situation. And she didn't try to do it right away. She sat back, she thought about it, she strategized, and she saw a moment and she took it. Which there's so much of this that relates to sports to me.
Yeah,
especially
absolutely.
like football, like you're pushing against opposition constantly, and then every once in a while you see an opening and you can make up some ground.
Yeah, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
One person that we haven't really talked about very much is Portia. It's her big return to Bravo after being, off of Atlanta for 2 seasons. Were you excited to see her back on the screen, Dylan?
Absolutely. I love Portia. She's great. I love to see her back. She always has really funny lines. She's just a funny person. I know, like when Candace shows up in her ridiculous hat and Portia says she looks like a thumb wearing a tent.
Yeah.
That hat was like a 90s satellite dish.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was melting in the sun or something. Yeah. Yeah, like when people like are just kind of diffusing their arguments around the table and nobody's really blowing up, and Portia just says, "Y'all sorries come quick." Like just like I'm losing my patience here, man.
Portia is probably my favorite character. I just wrote her nickname as the popular one because number one, she's funny. She seems like a lot of fun, and I think maybe because like everyone else except Leah has like a pair. Like there's 2 from Miami, 2 from Salt Lake City, 2 from Potomac, but she's kind of there on her own. So right away, she's not making any energies. She says at the Spirit House thing, she's like, yeah, I want some sisterhood kind of vibes and let's all have fun. And I think because like, if I'm not mistaken, she is the most seasoned one on the show. Like Real Housewives from Atlanta has been around for a while, right?
Yeah, and it was the most popular show on Bravo for a while.
Yeah, so she knows what she's doing, and she knows like people are gonna like me. I don't need to be this huge attack missile all the time because I have my sense of humor to fall back on. I'm fun. Everybody seems to have fun around me. She seems like a pro at the game, where a lot of times when there's a big discussion and as soon as she sees someone with their back up against the wall, she's usually a person that will jump in and not try to diffuse the situation, but she'll kind of give someone an out a lot of the time. Like she'll be like, okay, so what you're trying to say is that blah, blah, blah. And she'll almost act like a moderator or a mediator for these arguments. And I noticed a lot of times when she does that, Giselle will step in and go, no. And she'll kind of cut that off because they want that tension to sit. They don't want anything to get solved. And Portia she's the only one that smiles on that show where it feels genuine. Like it looks like a genuine smile.
Yeah, Heather's smile might as well be carved into her cheeks like the Joker. It's just it's such a forced, like corporate dorky smile. And then of course
her comedy goes over just as well too.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Yeah, I will give Heather credit for the line about expecting to see Leonardo DiCaprio go past with a backpack over his head. The beach reference there was a decent line, but
bad.
Otherwise her comedy's not really fly.
One thing that I wanted to touch on was there was something that Alexia mentioned about how her husband and how some of the male partners on the show kind of view Housewives as like a women's show and are like slightly embarrassed about their involvement with it and say, I don't need this. Dylan, did you pick up on that? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, I that's not a surprise to me. We're here to change that, right, guys? Yeah. But no, of course, it's like Housewives is seen as a bit of an embarrassment thing for the dudes, especially like business dudes and stuff who have their like business dude reputation to maintain, which is what most of the husbands are in these shows. So yeah, it's not surprising that they kind of look down their noses at it. I think most like straight guys do look down their noses at housewife stuff without having ever tried to engage with it and actually give it a shot.
Yeah, I did. And like I said, before I watched any of this, I just assumed it was just airhead, vapid TV. Mm-hmm. And it's really not. It's very complicated. It's very complex. And you can watch it almost like sports. Like a lot of times a housewife would do something and I'd sit there and go, oh, good play.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's plays and there's battles and there's wins and losses. And
there's even replays sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah, they go, let's go to the videotape.
But I agree that is kind of core to one of the things that we are trying to do on this show. I mean, we're not out here necessarily trying to change anyone's minds, but I think that expectation that, this is, a women's show and is like vapid, I think that's obviously very false because it's probably the most narratively rich programming that you can watch, a Real Housewives like actual season. But yeah, I think I'm also not surprised to hear that. I think this is the first time I've heard that like explicitly expressed on Bravo as a channel. But you've definitely seen like Leanne's husband on Real Housewives of Dallas. He was this like a former cop and he like looked like a Bond villain. He had an eye patch and but he seemed very embarrassed every time that he was on camera and like really not wanting to be there. But he's also now on Cameo and you can order like a video from him where he's like, hey, I am so-and-so from, I can't remember what his name is, but I guess he was on a cop show prior to that too for a little bit, but he's most well known from this. And every time he has to say like, I'm from like FBI and Real Housewives of Dallas, he's like just so embarrassed about it. It's really funny if you watch any of his Cameo previews.
Well, and also, like, if you're on a show like this, like, if you walk onto the set of Real Housewives, like I said, I grew up with 3 sisters in the house, and it is tense. It can be very, very tense. So walking onto a set and getting a wave of that energy, I can see why a lot of, especially men, would walk onto camera and they would just feel that energy and they go, and kind of don't, they want to disassociate with it. That's why when I started watching this, my first instinct was get up and leave the room, because I've seen my sisters fight like this and I'm like, I don't want to be around when this happens because this is going to get ugly and it is going to wind up in tears. So I can see a lot of the men and the husbands being like, yeah, I don't want, yeah, okay, yeah, go do that. Oh, you're going to Thailand? Great, go to Thailand and do that.
Did either of you guys have any other highlights from the Ultimate Girls trip that you wanted to talk about?
I like this scene. Like, it was very early on, but I like the scene with the spirit house when they get there, because they've all got there, they've already started fighting, and then this adorable Pepsi guy, which poor Pepsi, having to deal with these women, not only waiting on them hand and foot, but having them all pretend to be friends with him.
Right.
Well, like, oh, my little Pepsi, by the way, did you get my pillows? Because I have my special pillows coming in. But he brings them out to the spirit house, which, if I'm not mistaken, the whole point is to like get all the negative spirits and put them in this house so that our house has harmony and stuff. And immediately just a dark cloud of anger and negative energy comes to the spirit house. They start fighting. Giselle is like, yeah, you better watch your mouth, Whitney. And they're like shooting glances at each other. I wish they had like just a one shot of the spirit house just like slowly closing its doors.
Yeah.
Like, no, you keep that in your house. We're good here.
Pepsi is outside and just locking the doors and
Yeah.
saying to the whole community, we got it. We got them. They'll stay there for 10,000 years, according to the legends.
Yeah. There's that. And I think like the elephant scene was delightful. It was the first time watching the show where I'm like, this looks like a lot of fun. Everybody's having fun. And I thought a really good play during that was, this is the first time we see Giselle like kind of let her guard down, where she's petting the elephant and she's like, ee, and she's making all these noises. And the second she lets her guard down, all the women start making fun of her noises. And going oh my God, if those are the noises you're making in the bedroom and all that stuff. So they've seen blood in the water and they're all attacking because this is their first opportunity.
That's not all they've seen in that water. It is full of shit.
Yeah. But Portia sees a moment and she goes, oh, okay, everybody's on the same page about this. I'm going to make a play here. And she makes a genius play, picks up a ball of mud, throws it at her butt, which is something like, yeah, you hit her in the butt. Okay, you can wash that off. You're not ruining her hair. You're not ruining her makeup. So she can't get too mad. But also the rest of the women see me, oh, yeah, I'm going to take a shot at Giselle here. And I go, oh. She's going at the queen right now. And I thought it was a brilliant play and it paid off, not immediately and not obviously, but that is in all the other women's minds that like, ooh, Portia's not scared of anybody.
I fucking love Portia doing that, then going, who did that?
Yeah.
It's just so funny.
That and the elephant sanctuary lady, like she's got blue hair and she's kind of like getting everybody, you know, okay, we're all going to come here and don't run. By the time they sat down, she was fed up with these women.
For sure.
She's like, get these women away from my animals.
Yeah, there's a professional here to make sure this animal doesn't attack anyone.
Yeah.
And nobody's listening to her.
Yeah.
They're lucky that elephant didn't attack them, because that's why she's saying don't run.
Yeah.
You know, they're spooking the elephant.
Yeah.
And you know, a little bit of credit to Heather here, who I'm shitting on a lot, and maybe we'll continue to before it's done. And the elephant's shitting on her a lot too. But she seems to be the only one who's like, that's somebody who has horses, you know? She's like, I'm just giving it some roughage here. Like she's comfortable around the big animal. Well, all these other women are like, oh my God, it took a shit. I'm out of here. Like, what the hell do you think it's going to do? It's a gigantic mammal.
Well, and also at that point in the show, she is like, she had just said she's going to try to win everybody back, which means she feels like everybody there hates her. And now this is the first time where she doesn't feel like she's being attacked. Everybody else thinks this elephant's going to attack me. And she goes, no, I'm safe here. I'm like, this feels like the first time during the show she feels safe from attack. And it happens to be beside a giant wild animal rather than the rest of these friends that she's making. And another thing that made me laugh out loud is right after Heather says, I'm going to do my darndest to win back these women and I'm going to make them my friends and stuff like that. The next scene, she's in a car with two black ladies and she's like, oh, this is the Kamala Harris district. She just drops Kamala.
What the hell?
Now, hey, maybe it was a coincidence. Maybe they just happened to be in that district. Maybe she just mentioned it. I don't know if she would have mentioned that if it was two white women in the car.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
That and also like when they're getting on the boat, they're like, "Oh, this is going to be so fun." I'm sitting there going, "Why would you think that? Why would you think that it's fun? This is all going to like."
Yeah, I love
it's
that
never
we also
fun.
got that
Nothing
montage.
you do is fun. They don't let it be.
I love that we also got the montage of like all the times like shit has gone down on a boat for Housewives, and it wasn't even comprehensive. Like I can think of other times when like shit went down. Like this last season, Jen Shaw even like tossed someone's shoes off of a boat. Like boats and Housewives do not have a good track record. So
it's great
I
because
love
they can't storm off. They can't storm off like, unless they've got like a
they're trapped.
Yeah, they're trapped unless they have like a little skidoo or something they can motor off in. They can't do like the angry walk off that they do from the club or the bar.
I just pictured Heather hitting like the throttle on a skidoo and it just shooting out from underneath her, and she
Dylan, did you have any other highlights from the girls trip?
Just to quickly point out how badly Heather handled that whole black eye situation, just giving multiple like conflicting explanations for why she didn't get
not a good liar.
Jen Shaw. No, not a good liar. And the thing is, she starts off by saying like implying that she's not going to give up her secrets by saying snitches get stitches, and like then she follows it up by giving a bunch of excuses. And also she already has the stitches.
Yeah.
Like, you can stitch now. You already got punched.
And it's like the one person we haven't talked about is Candace. And I like Candace a lot. I think Candace is really good at the game, where she's kind of like Whitney. Like she's not out there. She's not loud. I nicknamed her the boot knife because she's like, you kind of forget about her sometimes. Like she's sitting right there and you're like, yeah, she hasn't really done much. And then all of a sudden out of the boot, surprise, and she cuts. And when she's at the Spirit House, the first thing she says is like, my goal for this trip is to keep all my edges. I'm like, yeah, because you cut people. And you sit there with this kind of like, come at me vibe. Like you can't touch me kind of thing. And then what I noticed is when they're on the boat, she has some beef with Giselle, and she uses Leah to take her first punch for her. She basically sends a Leah missile at Giselle, so that Leah comes in, says a thing, and immediately Giselle perks up and goes, no, that didn't happen. And as soon as she sees, okay, she's on her heels, boom, now she comes in. So it was a very savvy move to have someone else take the first punch.
Yeah,
so
and it looks like she's setting her up to take the second punch too at the end of episode 3, where Leah's kind of checking in with Candace, be like, "Oh, so do I just hit the reset button or what?" And obviously, Candace is not going to say, "Yeah, just hit the reset," like you know, hug it out. It's like, no, Giselle needs to be checked. Go and do that.
Yeah, very, very manipulative, but good at it. Where it's not like. Yeah, she's not like just pushing someone. She's almost inceptioning people to do her dirty work for her.
I think that's something that we don't actually see a lot of Candace doing on Potomac, but we are seeing it here, which is interesting that she's kind of using this playground as a way to kind of up her game and do some training exercises, manipulating other players, because she's definitely doing that here. And something that is called out earlier in one of these episodes where they talk about how Candace is like a reactive housewife and she doesn't initiate things, but she's initiating things here. So it's definitely something that Giselle and Portia are picking up on, that, you know, Candace is kind of playing this differently than she normally does. And I love to see that, because I think Candace is a great housewife, and seeing her broaden her game and try new things is something that I really appreciate.
Mm-hmm. Well, and she's also like, she's a player that has a lot of years left on her contract. Like there's some of these women like Portia, or not Portia, Marisol. I'm like, realistically, like, I think she's like 55 or something like that. I'm like, realistically, how much longer can you keep this up? Like, you've been in the game for a long time. Where with Candace, it's like, all right, you've got all these skills, and we can get another 20 years of Candace,
How good was Marisol's line when Leah says she's on her period? And Marisol's
Oh,
like,
that
who
was
gets a period anymore? That's so 1980s.
Yeah, I almost texted that to you, Craig,
That was
being like, could I
amazing.
make that my tagline? Like, is that a tagline? Because that's one of the best lines I've ever heard in my life. Who gets their period anymore? That's 1980s. And then a sip from a Cosmopolitan or whatever. Oh, God.
Yeah, no, Marisol will keep it up as long as her stomach holds out, which who knows how long that's going to be, because she's given that old liver a beating too.
Yeah, I thought that this past season on Miami, I'm like, oh, they're giving like Marisol a really heavy alcoholic cut, and then kind of continues on here, but it does seem like a legitimate issue, like something.
Yeah,
really
like it's
it's
part of the the personality that she's projecting. I get that it's kind of a bit, but at the same time, like when she does things like holds up a bottle of vodka and points at it and says, "My personality's in there." It's like, this is an alcoholic way of speaking. You are actually an alcoholic. I think.
But you know what? She says something later at some point during the show. She goes, "Yeah, I'm not an alcoholic. I manage my drinks well." And I'm like, "Yeah, you do." Like, she's been drinking the entire time. She's never. I haven't seen her.
You don't even know who you are when you're not drinking anymore.
Well, exactly. But like, you don't see her slurring. You don't see her falling over. She's always drinking, but she's never. She's like Julian from Trailer Park Boys. She's just always has a drink, but she's never drunk. And when the doctor talks to her and is like, I think you might have an ulcer, you might not be able to drink, I'm like, oh, okay, she's lost her superpower now. Because I'm like, the whole time, I'm like, this is someone who, she's not easy to rattle her cage. You're not going to throw her off like you can with Heather or even Whitney to an extent. Like, this is someone who's rock solid. And now you take her not her kryptonite, but you take her special power away. Let's see how this handles. And then like 2 scenes later, she's like, yeah, I'm just going to keep drinking. She's for sure not stopping. The other scene, the one scene that I wanted to talk about is when we have, after the elephant sanctuary, they're eating lunch, and you have Marisol, I think, with the first, from what I could tell, genuine, real moment, which is where she's talking about her mother and talking about her mother passing, and she's crying real tears. And I'm like, okay, this is human. This feels human to me. This is like, it warmed my heart a little bit just to see human emotions. And then right after that, the circle goes around to Leah, and Leah knows, number one, Leah needs attention, has to have it. And she's like, I got to follow this story. So she starts telling a story about her grandma dying and about, I was filming the show and no one told me that I could be with my grandma. And she starts crying these crocodile tears. And one thing growing up with sisters has taught me is there is a big difference between real tears and fake tears. And I've seen both so many times that I'm like, you are putting this on. And all the other housewives are like, yeah, you could have left the show. We know the production company. No one was forcing you to stay there. Like, quit trying to take all of this, take Marisol's like beautiful, genuine moment of real emotion, and you're trying to bring that attention to you. And I'm glad the other housewives spotted it. I certainly spotted it, and Leah is not a good actor.
I sort of felt for Leah in that moment, but at the same time, I feel like what she must have done in that moment was the same thing we see her do when she's upset with the quality of her room when she arrives, which is just be passive aggressive rather than ask for a new room. She just kind of follows Pepsi around, being like, "Oh yeah, my room's not great, is it? The other girls have good rooms, don't they? Oh wow, okay, I guess that's just the way it is." Which, as somebody who works at a hotel, I'm just like, "Oh my god, I recognize that behavior so much." And like, she won't ask for what she wants. She'll just like, imply that something should be changed, but then back away from asking for it. So I feel like that's probably what she did when her grandmother died in terms of how she approached the production of the show. I
felt like her like interpretation of how it went was authentic, but I think that it was, I think it's exactly like you said, like she didn't actually ask to leave. And I think all the housewives like were picking up on that and calling it out. I think that there's a bit of like protectionism around the production, right? Like you want to stay in production's good graces, and obviously, it's not a good look for Bravo Peacock to be like, no, you can't go visit your dying grandmother. And I don't think that
Right.
they would, but
Yeah, and of course they're going to include clips of the girls like defending the production because that's who's assembling the show.
Yeah.
But-
Yeah.
We are coming up on our time here, but I do want to
Yeah.
get into Vanderpump Rules a little bit.
Yeah.
Andy, do you want to give us your first impressions of Vanderpump Rules?
Vanderpump Rules was a show, again, I knew nothing about, and it was definitely it was a contrast to Real Housewives Ultimate Girls Trip, because like you said, Real Housewives was an all-star game. It was very easy for me to pick up on, okay, this is the game, these are the players, this is how they play it. Where Vanderpump Rules, I don't know any of the 10 years of backstory, so I was a little lost for a lot of it. I am surprised to see an entire cast of closeted gay men that I had never seen before. But yeah, it definitely feels more human, Vanderpump Rules. Like it seems more genuine. Like I know people that kind of act and look and sound like this, so it rang a little more true for me. But I was kind of lost because I watched the episode 7 just to kind of get a sense of the characters, and episode 8 I had a little more, insight as first of all what all of their names are. I'm terrible with names, so half the battle was just me being like, oh no, that's not this Tom, that's the other Tom, and
Yeah.
I'm trying to write all this down. But I would say
Please don't let
first
it be about
impressions.
Tom. It's about Tom.
Yeah. Which Tom? But I would say immediately I don't like James. He
Yeah, team
seems
hate
like
James.
a very abrasive. He's a lot like Leah with a better attitude, where Leah's always like depressed and like, oh, woe is me. He has the same attention-seeking behaviors, but he does it less with sympathy and more with outgoingness and stuff like that. And this episode, watching him very obviously jealous and butthurt about Raquel moving on and flirting with this Schwartz guy, who I like. Schwartz is the first character that I've seen that I'm like, I could fucking have a beer with this guy. This guy seems all right. It's kind of funny. He doesn't take anything too seriously. But watching James have a temper tantrum with a smile on his face for the entire episode as he's taking shots at Schwartz and just like using Allie, his new girlfriend, who I feel so bad for, using her as a pawn in this game of I'm going to make Raquel jealous and I'm going to make everybody feel uncomfortable and she's going to be there for the whole thing. He doesn't love her. He does not love her.
That's
He is
not
constantly,
a way to treat a twin flame.
Yeah, he's exactly. He's very obviously trying to show everyone else how much he loves her, but it is completely
and the way he
ungenuine.
shows it, that like weird, like childish, syrupy way, gets so on my nerves. Like, oh, can I tongue kiss you right now? Oh, he's crawling on the floor like a dog and biting her hip, like Jesus Christ, dude, come on.
Yeah, and I like my first impression of her is I was like, number one, she is gorgeous. She's a young, gorgeous woman who seems very nice. And seems like, kind of quiet. She's not really looking for attention or anything. She's just kind of like, hey, everybody, how's it going? And she gets thrown into this Shark Tank of all these different things. And I'm like, you're such a nice, attractive person. I don't think anyone is ever going to be fully honest with Allie. Not just on this show. I think in real life, everyone is either going to be kissing her ass to try and get something, or they're going to be trying to tear her down out of jealousy. And this is just the vibe I got from one episode, but I kind of feel bad for her. And especially during the last scene where they're all sitting at table and James is yelling at, I can't remember her name. She was blonde and in the red dress. And she's saying like, I didn't like how you were fighting with that guy from the lobby or what. Yeah, Ariana. That's right. When she's sitting in the middle and she's very quietly being like, no, it's okay, Jane. Everybody's just I was just sitting there going, just go, just get up and go. Like, you
And
could
she
get a
does.
plane ticket back. Like, yeah. And when she finally gets up, I'm like, my God, thank you. Like, and I don't know what's going to happen in the next episode, but I'm just picturing James going to the hotel room and being like, hey, sorry for that. And then immediately launching into, can you believe what she said to me? And blah, blah, blah. Because James is all about himself.
Yeah,
is what I'm picking up
don't
on.
think we'll get an apology from James, just judging based on
No.
past experience. I think there won't really be any sort of ownership of his role in things. But yeah, I'm curious to see how that plays out.
Mm-hmm. But
Yeah.
one of the scenes I really liked was at the beginning where James is, playing with his computer, with his DJ music and all that stuff. And his dad comes in and it's like, whoa, so like you're not drinking and like being a musician and drinking, like that goes how I couldn't do it. How could you do it? He's just like, all right. And I don't know if his dad to me seemed drunk, but I don't know if he was drunk or just British. Because some people are so British that they sound drunk.
Yeah.
And
sometimes that Venn diagram is basically a circle.
Yeah.
The scene of James like DJing in his room and he was like so into it. It reminded me
Yeah.
of like a scene in if you've seen Hamlet 2, like Steve Coogan is like so
I
into
have.
his own like writing.
Yeah.
He's like crying and laughing at the same time while he's typing on his keyboard. It
Yeah.
really reminded me of like, oh, that into yourself, like into
Yeah.
the zone. Really
Can't
being,
smell
I'm
their
the
own
man.
bullshit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Raquel also, like, from the episode 7 that I was watching, everybody seemed to be ganging up on Raquel and being like, she's a bitch. But all I heard her say was like, yeah, Lala slept with my husband while we were still together or something like that.
Yeah,
and I
Lala slept with James.
Yeah, and I'm like, why is everyone being mean to Raquel when Lala's the one sleeping with people's husbands and shit? And then as as episode 8 went on, you see a little bit more of Raquel, and Raquel is using this Schwartz guy, it feels like, to get back at James, and both of these people are using pawns against each other. And I'm like, why don't you just get back together and stop ruining other people's lives?
Yeah, there's another element to it that you might not have picked up on because it wasn't known to production at the time. But Raquel and Tom Sandoval, the other Tom,
with
were
the
having
hair and the mustache.
Yeah, they were
Okay.
having an affair. So Tom Sandoval has been with Ariana for like 9 years, and it just blew up a few weeks ago that Tom and Raquel were having an affair. And so apparently Raquel was using Tom Schwartz as kind of a cover for that.
Oh, okay. Is that like you were talking after they filmed this that came out?
Yeah, so after the season had been like wrapped up, this came out. So this came out just like at the beginning of March. And then production got started again to kind of capture the fallout of this for another episode that's going to get tacked on to the end of this. And then the reunion, these shows always have a reunion where they bring everyone together to talk about the season. That hadn't been shot yet either. So the reunion was just shot about a week ago, and apparently it was an explosive event where things got physical.
Oh, they all are. They all are.
Yeah, but this especially so. This is like a huge event within Bravo. It was like a bomb that went off.
Okay. But everything seems to be like they're planning this wedding, and the whole time I know nothing about the couple or anything, but I'm like, yeah, I'm sure this will go well. I'm sure everything will go smoothly at this wedding. Like and Katie showing up to a wedding uninvited and being like, no, I can go. It is one of the most insane things. And I'm wondering if that's who she really is. Just like, nope, you can't tell me. Because I have stubborn friends like that where if they're acting like an idiot at a party and you say, hey, man, you need to cool out, they go, no. And they'll double down on it just to not lose face. And maybe that's what's going on. Or maybe it's Katie being like, look, if I miss out on this wedding, then it's a huge chunk of the show that I'm not in. And I don't want to get forgotten about. So maybe there's two elements of it.
Yeah, there's a bit of both.
It seems like the most needless stress thing. Like this is the hardest part for me to get my head around with the Vanderpump Rules is, especially when I find out about, this one slept with this one's husband and this one's having an affair and these two were married but they're broken up. I'm like, why are you all still in the same room? Shouldn't you have all gone your separate ways? And what bonds all of you together? And then also I'm like, what is going on with this restaurant? Yeah. And then pretty soon it became clear, nobody cares about this restaurant that the Toms are opening. Like, that's just we're killing time with this before we get to the meat and potatoes of it all. But
Dylan, any final thoughts on Vanderpump Rules?
Yeah, well, in terms of like Katie's stubbornness, I said last episode, I don't think she really has a leg to stand on there, and I feel like the only justification that would make sense would be if this was at the producer's request that she's going to that if it's like for off-camera reasons that they want Katie to be there. Because if it really is as it's presented on the show, and it's just that Katie's just being very stubborn and refuses to give up her hotel suite, it like she has no excuse for doing that. It's just being petty and stubborn for no reason. Which isn't to say that I don't have sympathy for Katie, and I love when everybody's hanging out and we get a little tiny shot of Katie in her house listening to pop punk and mixing tea with like her dog looking at her. That was just a great little couple second insert of being chill and bored and kind of sad at home before you cut back to everybody else having fun. Yeah. That was really good. Good little insert in there. Yeah. But otherwise, like Katie going and Christina Kelly like just crashing a brunch or whatever is just weirdly annoying behavior.
Yeah.
And Sheena has a point to be mad about it. Like it was hilarious when Stassi said that like she looked like a trashy quinceanera dress or whatever at her first wedding.
Yeah.
Like back then, like season 1 or 2 or whatever, it was like Stassi was just sharpening her teeth on Sheena the whole time. And it was funny then, but Sheena's right to be upset about it, and she's right to expect to like not have to be dragged through the mud at her own wedding for a second time.
Yeah. There was something about Sheena that I know from episode 7 that I was watching. I know you've talked about this episode already, but when they're in the kitchen at that pool party and Lala and Raquel are going back and forth and it's getting heated and they're like trashing each other. And then from my standpoint, it seemed like out of nowhere, Sheena walks up to Katie and is like, I don't want your negative energy at my wedding. I think Sheena's like, all right, everything's already negative in here. Everything's already bad. Can't make it any worse. Now's the time to drop this on her. Yeah. And I'm like, it just blindsided. It's blindsided me. I'm sure it blindsided Katie. Just, I don't want you at my wedding, by the way. All right. Like the one thing I noticed about this show, and again, the 2 episodes that I've seen, both episodes for everybody seem like a constant ongoing therapy session where everybody is always explaining their feelings, trying to validate their feelings, explaining where they're coming from, talking it out, having conversations. So it seems to me like a therapy session, but nobody makes any progress. Yeah. Like they're always getting their feelings out, validating it, but nobody's reaching a resolution. Nobody's ever. So I'm like, this is from a storytelling standpoint, this is great because you have all the conflict and you have the explanation of it. You're never really sitting there for too long going, why would they do that? Why would they act like that? Because they explain themselves.
The thing is, their explanations, other therapy-ish explanations post facto, are always justifications that they come up with rather than like trying to figure out why they were like angry at the point, because they get angry for human reasons. People get angry all the time, and then they're always like looking for an angle to be like, actually I was totally justified because it was insulting to my Mexican heritage, or because of it's Lala often likes to say because of feminism or something. Like it's just like it's not necessarily getting closer to the truth of like why they're angry. It's just it's just
more about saving face than finding out the truth. And Lala I really don't like, just because number one, like with these shows, there's a lot of people where I just don't like them because I know somebody that acts or sounds like that, and I'm like, I know you. But
for sure, these shows definitely serve as a bit of a proxy for that.
Yeah. But Lala, one thing that she brought up in episode 7 and episode 8 was in episode 7. She was like, I haven't had sex since I conceived my kid. And then later on, she's yelling at James, being like, having a child is not a flippant thing. It is a big responsibility. And on both times, I'm like, where is this kid that you keep talking about? You're giving people parenting advice. You're talking about your kid. Where is this kid? And I never got an answer for that.
Well, that's about all the time that we've got. Thank you for doing this.
Whoa. I just want to ride to Lala's defense because I love Lala. I think she's great. And I thought this was a huge episode for her. And I'm glad that she's back on her feet after the Dawn gave her an orgasm. And I thought that she was like back to old school, like cattiness and being really funny. So just wanted to sneak that in before we wrap up.
And you want to talk about a character coming on and playing their part? The Dawn. That's the guy. That's the dude who shows up at her house and is like, yo, you sticky and sweet. And then she bangs him, right?
Yeah, exactly.
That guy came in, did exactly what he was supposed to do, and then left. Love that guy.
But we could talk more about Lala next episode if you want, Craig.
Yeah, for sure. I think we will be getting into Lala a bit more next episode, the way that things are queuing up between her and Raquel. Thank you so much, Andy. Do you want to let everyone know where they can find you?
Andy.
I'm going to be, I don't know when this airs, but I'm going to be headlining Rumors Comedy Club April 11th and 12th. I'll be around Winnipeg shows all over the place, but my Instagram is probably the best way to follow me. It's Andy Noble Jokes on Instagram. If you're listening from Winnipeg, my co-op number is 171720. If you want to support my comedy, just fill it up, throw it on 171720. That money comes right back to me. And yeah, just in closing, like I said before agreeing to do this podcast, and thank you so much for having me. This was a lot of fun. I had zero experience with reality TV, especially Real Housewives and stuff like that. And it was very eye-opening as to the complexity of it and the actual, like, I was way off base, like I think a lot of people are, where
for sure
they think it is just vapid, mindless TV, it's background noise, and it's not. You have to pay close attention to these shows, and it's, like I said before, it's Game of Thrones level complexity. And it definitely was not what I thought it was. I don't think I'm ever going to watch an episode of any of these shows again. If I'm being honest, I just, like I said, growing up with sisters and knowing where that energy comes from and seeing all of it, it really, at first it made my skin crawl. And by the end, I was like, okay, I get this. I understand the entertainment value, but it is so stressful for me. Like I was watching this in 15-minute intervals or increments.
Well, hopefully you will watch another episode because we'd love to have you back sometime.
I'd love to be back. And listen, you start a podcast about, The Wire or Sopranos or something, I'm totally back. But
Dylan, do you want to let everyone know where they can find you?
You can find my back catalog of horror movie podcasts under the name of Mind Over Splatter. And they got a Substack about movies. That's Dylan Ferguson.
Awesome. Well, that's been Bravo Outsider. You can find us online at bravooutsider.com or on Instagram and now TikTok at Bravo Outsider. We're also on YouTube where you can watch my plant right here die in real time. Until next week, let's keep it real.